Hi guys, I'm Manu and welcome to another episode of Sweet Money. I'm a Canadian and US CPA. I've got a cool little accounting firm better known as Shandel CPA. I was supposed to talk about eligible and non-eligible dividends today, but here we are.
It was not particularly hard to see something like this coming. In fact, back in 2015, I wrote an article for The Hill that went super viral, and it was about violence exploding in the left wing. And at the time, this article was mocked by leftists and by the mainstream media. They were laughing about this idea that, the leftists would, encourage political violence against, people who don't share their values. But it was actually predictable to see it leading here. Starting back in 2014, 2015, you had Democrats, high up Democrats, insinuating that people right of center, especially Trumpian figures, were Hitlerian, fascists. And then in 2017, Steve Scalise was shot at the congressional baseball game. You had high-profile right-wingers like Ted Cruz and Sarah Huckabee Sanders being heckled out of public places, shouted down. This kind of behavior escalated. And then when Trump was inaugurated and after the 2016 election, there were 200 violent leftists that were indicted for committing violence that day. And then, of course, it just got worse from there to the crescendo when Donald Trump himself had an assassination attempt against him. And now this, Charlie Kirk assassinated in cold blood. It is sickening. And there is a culture of violence on the left. This is a problem. And our media and figures on the left need to do something about it, need to recognize it, and they need to stop now before more people get killed.
22-year-old Thomas Damasio stormed a stage and broke through a police blockade, and in the process tried to attack Donald Trump. 20-year-old Michael Stephen attempted to snatch a police officer's gun and tried shooting Donald Trump. Gregory Lee Lean Gang stole a forklift and attempted to drive it through a Donald Trump rally. A letter laced with ricin was sent to Donald Trump, which was discovered by the mailing services. Donald Trump was escorted from a press briefing after an armed man tried to climb the fence of the White House. Thomas Matthews Crooks fired 8 shots towards Donald Trump. One of the bullets grazed Donald Trump's ear. Another bullet hit a civilian who died. Ryan Wesley Routh was hiding in the bushes in one of Donald Trump's golf courses known as Trump International Golf Club with a rifle. Secret Services spotted him before he could do anything. He tried driving away in his car, and the Secret Services shot him down. Tommy Robinson, death threat. Jordan Peterson, death threat. Candace Owen, death threat. Piers Morgan, death threat. Vivek Ramaswamy, death threat. Dave Chappelle, who happens to be a comedian, has no political affiliation, death threat. December 4th, 2024, Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, a staunch Trump supporter, was on his way to the office and he was shot and killed in New York City. Charlie Kirk, leader of the youth conservative movement, was killed at Utah Valley University. 8 confirmed attacks on Donald Trump, on a man who has been in power for only 5 years. He survived because of good luck and God's grace, and top-notch security. The other 2 who died because they weren't as fortunate. Whoever shot Charlie was not a lunatic on heavy medication. He was an individual who shot a bullet, one bullet, from hundreds of meters away, and he hit Charlie right in the neck. He came across as a trained professional. The way, if you watch footage that's now been released, the way he jumped off of that building from where he shot that bullet, he jumped like a pro, like he was a trained military officer. This was not some Joe Blow, chip eating, TV watching American who just decided to go crazy one day. What was Charlie's crime? He loved his country. He promoted peace. He had family values. He talked about working hard. He preached the importance of following the law, being a good citizen. He believed in traditional values, and he wanted the U.S. to regain the zen it has lost since 2008. And, you know, as a Hindu, I believe in the exact same things. I teach my kids the same values that Charlie Kirk was trying to teach society, right? Albeit I have a very tiny, minuscule platform, but should I be scared? Should I stop loving my country and just talk about taxes and business? Fortunately, unfortunately, as a proud Canadian, my moral compass forces me to keep going. All assassination attempts on Trump were by people under the age of 40. And the people predominantly on social media happen to be under the age of 40. And if the left media keeps vomiting and feeding the same rhetoric that people like Donald Trump, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Charlie Kirk are evil, they're racist, misogynist, fascist, they're Nazis, they're Hitler, they're evil, they're sexist, and the list goes on and on and on. You keep repeating that on a 24-hour news cycle, eventually someone will start to believe it. It's just the power of marketing. And then naturally, you start to feel that whatever is wrong in your personal life is because of these individuals, because that's what everyone is saying. You start to feel that whatever is wrong in society is because of these individuals, because, hey, that's what everyone is saying.
That people just, you can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place.
Matt.
And that's the unfortunate environment we're in.
Jack, it is just disgusting. They couldn't wait a day before they start trashing Charlie Kirk, saying his comments were divisive, that hateful speech led to this. What do you make of this?
It's some of the most despicable media coverage I think I've ever seen. A man, a father of two, he's murdered. These comments are made as he's dying. He wasn't yet declared dead at this point. And so rather than just reporting the mechanics of what's happened, rather than saying, at this point, he was shot in the neck with precision, by the way. So this whole notion that it could have somewhat been an accident by a supporter, to put that inference out there before you actually know what's happening is absolutely disgusting. But then to think, okay, the appropriate way to cover this story, this huge story, is to place some kind of characterization around him from a moral point of view is absolutely despicable. Now, to say that it is hate speech to take some of his positions, I think is just absolutely appalling, because you've got in America, it appears to be one of the only countries in the world where if you oppose illegal immigration at the levels that they are experiencing, you're somewhat of an extremist. In Australia, left-wing parties and more conservative parties are in complete agreement that borders should be protected. No serious country adopts a policy that their borders shouldn't be protected. But we have news outlets who are supposed, they think that they're mainstream. I think that they're now on the fringe, and this is why people are moving towards more independent voices, because there is more integrity now. But you've got these people who are characterizing that, of protecting your borders of a sovereign nation, as somewhat of an extremist viewpoint. Now, to say, I think the quote was, hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. Now think about that. That is a very deliberate argument that that action was somewhat justified or deserved, or simply it's his own fault for having hateful rhetoric. I don't even accept that it is hateful rhetoric to suggest that there is a crime problem. But for a journalist or a commentator to put that viewpoint out there, I think is appalling, and I don't accept their apology. I don't think Americans should, and I think that they should face some kind of congressional inquiry for why they are heightening the temperature in America, and it's leading to multiple assassination attempts on conservatives.
Really?
There are 4 types of lefties, and I know people from all 4 quadrants at a very personal and intimate level. I've dealt with them all. And this is how I would categorize these 4 individuals. Quadrant number 1, these individuals are just brainwashed, right? It's ignorance, they're brainwashed. They're lovely people. They're wonderful people. They're people that you can actually, enjoy their company, have a meal with, hang out with, just lovely, wonderful people. But unfortunately, they can't differentiate between reality, practicality, utopia, and common sense. The media has caught hold of them. The second group are the extreme minorities, right? If you're thinking about them, I'm talking about them. These DEI people only care about their agenda. And they care about their agenda to the extent that they will sacrifice the nation they live in order to achieve their objective. Left-wing politicians have made these individuals their foundational vote bank. They fabricate these minority extremist groups, or they import them from other countries and make them their vote banks. And this is a primary reason why the Western countries, predominantly UK, I think they're in the lead, is why there's so much turmoil, why there's such a huge increase in crime and assassinations. Number 3, we have the entrepreneurs. These are so-called wannabe activists who know deep down inside the left is a wicked ideology that wants society to become lazy and reliant on government assistance. They want the left party to become society's drug of choice. The left will always spew this rhetoric that the right is full of evil capitalists. They're money hungry. But the truth is, most Fortune 500 CEOs donate and support the left because short-term profits trumps long-term stability. And the last quadrant, who my heart goes out to, these are the individuals who have mental health issues, right? These are lonely people who want to belong to something, right? They're people who feel defeated. They believe that deep down inside, they're not qualified to achieve anything, regardless of how hard they try or how hard they work. And in their head, their only mode of survival is a government check. Therefore, they keep voting left because they believe that if the right comes into power, these checks will stop coming their way. And they vote out of fear. And all of these 4 groups knowingly and unknowingly support each other. They work in this perfect vacuum. The entrepreneur makes money off of them, right? The ignorant, self-righteous group fights for the rights of these extremist groups without realizing they're doing more damage than good to society. And these extremists, these minority extremist groups, recruit these individuals who have these mental health issues by pretending to be their friends. They give them a sense of belonging, a sense of community, and then they exploit them for their own objectives and their own agendas. It's a very vicious cycle. As soon as Charlie Kirk was shot, the poison that came from the left was very scary. I know it's an evil empire, but I'm sure even the devil must have some ethical standards. Even he must have some boundaries. He was a father of 2 young children, a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, a husband. No sympathy, no prayers, no fear. What has society become? Instead, it was a bunch of keyboard warriors sitting in their mom's basement, stripped down to their boxers, typing in things like, "I wish he dies." This is what they had to say on social media. For a man who's fighting for his life, who has a young family, "I wish he dies." In the House of Commons, the Democrats refused a moment of silence for a man who wanted well for his country. Do you see the irony?
The House will be in order. We will join prayer right after this, okay? The chair lays before the House a communication. The House will be in order.
US, Canada, UK, Germany, Netherlands. People are starting to wake up and they're saying, you know what? Enough is enough of this virtue signaling. We need our nation back. The conservatives in the US have been silenced since 2008. The right was labeled as evil and the left monopolized the media to destroy the fabric of society. I think what happened to Charlie Kirk is a huge wake-up call. If we don't unite as a nation, as people, as humans now, I think it'll be too late. We're going to see riots happening in the streets. In Europe, people have already started to come out onto the streets. Look at what's happening in UK. People are tired, right? The grooming gangs in the UK have more power than the common civilian who was born and raised in the UK. Violence in Europe is becoming a common thing, and they don't even have a gun culture. And I don't want this happening in North America. My children don't want to live in Canada. They're getting high levels of education. They're smart. They'll be contributing members to society, but they don't want to contribute to this country because they see every day what's happening. We have to put our nation first, right? If our nation prospers, then we can afford to take care of those who are mentally and physically disabled, right? If we put our nation first, we will be in a position to attract immigrants who are qualified and can make a positive contribution to society, as opposed to lynch and steal and suck the blood out of society. If we put our nation first, we'll be able to call out the malicious entrepreneurs and support the ethical ones. If we put our nation first, hopefully the brainwashed individuals will come to their senses. Putting food on our table is hard enough. Why are we adding more complications? And remember, it all starts with a simple conversation.